Well, hey everybody, Rob Satrom from feedbackwrench.com. We help small businesses go from good to great by doing consulting, financial coaching, SEO, and marketing. And today we want to talk about what are some of the drawbacks, or particularly what are the three major drawbacks of converting to an S Corp or doing an S election. And we're going to help you understand a little bit of the dark side of becoming an S Corp. So, as you know, one of the best ways that you can mitigate your self-employment taxes is when you start to make income or net profits north of about $30,000 or $40,000 to do an S election and convert to an S Corp. For most businesses, this is going to make a ton of sense because essentially you're going to have a new tool to mitigate your self-employment taxes, those dreaded Social Security and Medicare taxes that total 15.3% of tax on your net income. This can really eat away at your profits. And when you become an S Corp, what happens is instead of 100% of your net profits being subject to self-employment taxes, you get to split it into two pieces. We cover this in our video called The Tax Difference Between an LLC and an S Corp. But basically what you do is you split it into two different parts. One side of this income will be your salary or your payroll. You'll have your corporation actually pay you. You'll use a payroll system to do that. And then the second part of that income is called the dividend or the distribution that you take as an owner. In its most basic sense, the dividend is not subject to self-employment tax while the payroll or the salary is. Now, you need to take a salary that's reasonable according to the IRS, and that has a lot to do with your net profit overall, your industry trends, what's just been your history. There's quite a few different things that go into it. So you should consult a professional to look at your case. But if you're looking to mitigate your taxes, becoming an S Corp is one of the best things that you possibly can do. Now, there's a number of drawbacks when it comes to becoming an S Corp, and that's something we want to talk about today. Nuance Financial was a tax firm that I helped build up, and they're based out of Minneapolis. They have a great solution, an all-in-one shop, where for about $500 a month, they do all your bookkeeping, all your tax planning, your tax returns, and they just handle everything for you. Check out nuancefinancial.com for that. But so many accountants don't dive into the full drawbacks that an S Corp are going to have. So I'm going to go over that. There's really three major drawbacks that an S Corp has, and just bear with me. So the first one, you have formalities. If you're going to convert to an S Corp, that means that in order to partake in the tax savings, you'll have a tax and legal formality set of hoops that you're going to have to abide by. And the first formality, accounting and bookkeeping to determine the reasonable salary. The first formality that you'll have to manage is this tension between a reasonable salary and the owner's distribution. If you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, then please check out the video on YouTube, the button right here, to see the tax difference between an LLC and an S Corp. The bottom line is that you need to take a salary which is reasonable according to your net profit and a number of other factors. This means that you'll want to be on top of your bookkeeping and accounting throughout the year so that you can know exactly how much should be taken as a salary and how much should be taken as a distribution. So the first formality is a bookkeeping and accounting system that you can determine and substantiate decisions made to manage that tension between a salary and a dividend or distribution. So again, check out nuancefinancial.com for that. The second formality is that you need a payroll system for your S Corp. If you didn't know this, the government has spent its Social Security money, which means that anyone partaking in the tax benefits of an S Corp will be held to a strict compliance for remitting the Social Security and Medicare taxes. Because the strict compliance is required, it's a very good idea to use a payroll system. You don't have to, but we just highly recommend it. We usually would recommend like an ADP or an Intuit product like Paychex, Zen Payroll. There's quite a few different ones out there. When you add up the total fees associated with using some of these solutions, you'll see that an all-in-one shop like Nuance Financial might be a good idea, but you need to have a payroll system, and you'll want to remit those taxes through the payroll system, and that's one of the major formalities. When you talk to an ADP, if you're just a single owner S Corp, or if you have 5 or 6 employees, those fees can start to add up. So the first formality is that you have accounting and bookkeeping, then you have a payroll system. Now the third formality is that you'll have an 1120S tax return. The S Corp tax return is a bigger tax return that you should expect to pay, between $200 and $1,500, depending on who you have to do for it. The last formalities is you have some legal formalities. Remember that there's 2 parts of all legal entities. You have the tax and the legal part. So far, I've been talking about the accounting requirements and formalities, but there are a set of legal formalities that you must abide by as well. Converting to an S Corp will mean that you need a board of directors. You'll have shares of stock, operating agreements, shareholder meetings, and a couple other documents that you're going to have. You can go to LegalZoom.com. You can talk to your local attorney. There's quite a few different ways to do that. But the first big drawback is you have formalities. And I tell you what, nuancefinancial.com, for, between $300 and $1,500 a month, they'll take care of you. But that's the first major drawback. So the second drawback of becoming an S Corp, and these last 2 ones are huge. You're going to want to pay attention to this. It has an impact on your Social Security benefits. It impacts your Social Security benefits. In order to be eligible for Social Security benefits, specifically your retirement benefits, you need to be eligible with enough of these work credits. Work credits are points that you earn for being employed at a minimum level throughout your life. You can only receive 4 work credits per year, no matter how much you earn. There's 2 eras concerning Social Security work credits. You have those that work before 1978 and those that work after 1978. In 1978, you get all 4 work credits if you earn at least $250, but in the year 2016, you have to be making about $1,260. So if you're making $1,300 a year, you're going to get all 4 of those credits towards your Social Security. So to be eligible for Social Security retirement, you need to have at least 40 work credits, essentially 10 years of working and earning about $1,300. But then to determine the amount of your benefit, this is a whole other thing. So first you have, do you get benefits? And now you have the amount of your benefit. There's a convoluted system that determines the percentage of your earnings that you've received, the average of your highest 35 years of employment. Why does this matter? Well, for an S Corp and S Corp owners, that Social Security benefit is calculated on the salary portion of your S Corp income, which is the tool you use to save in self-employment taxes. So you need to be aware of this. If you are doing an S Corp to save in self-employment taxes, you must prepare by investing so that you hit retirement with what you need. You'll have to take what's called that reasonable salary, which varies quite a bit. And the Social Security limit is $118,500 in 2016. It's going to be $125,000 moving into 17 and 18. You need to be careful that you understand that your Social Security benefits will be determined by your salary, not your Schedule K or your owner's dividend or distribution. You'll pay much less in self-employment taxes when you reduce that salary, but your benefits will be adjusted down. The solution is to make sure that you're investing in retirement, being financially wise, not getting into huge debt, and taking some of your tax savings to prepare for the future by investing. I really like Vanguard.com. You can go pick the year that you retire and get their retirement funds. They have super low fees. They're called index funds. They're great. Check out Vanguard.com. Now, this is kind of a big deal. I highly recommend that you dive into what's called an S&P 500 index or these retirement date funds. You need to be investing. Even better yet, if you have a business and you want to invest, you can take a look at SEP IRAs, 401ks, individual 401ks if you're like a real estate agent or a consultant or somebody like that, and you're a single owner S Corp. The solo 401k is one of the best tools you can use out there. So the second thing is that your retirement benefits, your Social Security retirement benefits, are going to be impacted by reducing your payroll. So the third big drawback is that home loans and retirement plan contribution limits are tied to your salary. So this part that we're trying to make small, home loans. So when you go to get a mortgage, or if you want to put lots of money towards a retirement plan, those contribution limits in that home loan looks at your salary almost always. So if you're doing a SEP IRA, a 401k, a profit share, a defined benefit plan, your maximum contribution is primarily tied to the salary portion of the S Corp. So definitely check out the individual K, the solo 401k, or the regular 401k from Vanguard, or even ADP. They have a great product. I won't dive into all the different rules and examples because they change every year, but I'll say that the 401k employer contributions. Now there's two types of contributions: employer and employee contribution. One, the company is making into the account. The other, it's more like if you worked for somebody else. And that's tied to the salary portion of the S Corp, not the Schedule K dividend. The employer side contribution is often called a match or a profit share side. Most plans allow you to pick a percentage of the Schedule C business income if you're an LLC, or the salary side of an S Corp. So usually you're going to do between 20 and 25% of your Schedule C from an LLC or of your salary as an S Corp. That's for SEP IRAs, individual 401ks, or profit share contributions. So take a look at that. Remember that when it's time to buy a house, if you're applying for a conventional FHA loan or a VA loan or something like that, you'll quickly realize that the business income needs to be locked down for a period of 2 years before it's even taken seriously. And then you'll notice that it's the S Corp salary, not the distribution, that's considered for the regular mortgage like that. Therefore, if you're a home buyer and you've got house fever and you're going to be buying a home, you should take a cold shower and realize that in exchange for saving thousands a year in self-employment taxes by taking that smaller payroll or salary, you're going to be approved for a lower amount in your pre-approval process. So just know that when it comes to buying a home, when you've been working hard to reduce your salary side so that you don't pay as much in self-employment taxes, you need to know that your lender is going to be like, wait a minute, you don't make very much. They're not going to approve you for as much. Now, if you were to not use an FHA, or maybe if you were to talk to a different lender that's not tied to the traditional mortgage rules, maybe that you'd pay a little bit higher interest rate, but then they would probably approve you for more. Remember, whenever a bank is taking on more risk, which entrepreneurs are riskier, you're going to pay for that in a higher interest rate. So remember that while tax planning with an S Corp is huge, there are three big drawbacks. The first one, you've got formalities. The second part is your retirement Social Security benefits will be reduced, and that can really impact you if you're not careful. And then the third thing is when you go to buy a home, or if you're going to make these retirement contributions, they're tied to the salary of the S Corp. And that means you often can't make as big of an investment or buy as much house. So again, this is Rob Satcham from feedbackwrench.com. We hope this is helpful. If you're looking for an all-in-one solution, check out nuancefinancial.com. If you're a small business owner and you're looking to make the web your best employee, check us out at feedbackwrench.com. Hopefully this is helpful.